my goal is to have parents be our partners and making sure that students take advantage of everything that's offered at Hobart and William Smith. I am here to answer any questions, and during our meeting today, I will make sure to put my contact information into the chat room, as well as I'm sure Gib will put his contact information in there as well. So I work on communications with parents, events, homecoming and family weekend, orientation, and yes, commencement, which is a few short 4 years away. And I work with parent volunteers. There are lots of ways to get involved, and our guests, JP and Carol Ann, will be able to talk a little bit more about all the ways that you can volunteer at the colleges. So without further ado, I will introduce our guests tonight. John Portilla and Carol Ann Riddell are parents of Jackson, a member of the class of 2025. He is a junior, and he is, I believe, studying abroad this semester. So Carol Ann and John will definitely talk about that a little bit more. But they have been incredibly involved in every way that you can be as a parent here at the colleges. So they have supported us through our admissions efforts with things like today's Zoom meeting. They're also hosting a New York City regional admitted student event on Thursday. And just a little plug, if you and your family have been invited to any regional admitted student days in your area, I highly recommend you attend. It's a great opportunity to meet folks, but that's second only to coming to campus for an admitted student day. And there are 2 in April. And again, I think maybe Gib can put something about that in the chat for you. John has served as a pitch mentor, think Shark Tank, on a smaller scale at Hobart and William Smith, and as a volunteer for our career service office, offering an internship in his business. They are very involved with our parent volunteer committee called the Parents Executive Committee. And please, Carol Ann and John, take it away.
Okay, good. We were trying to make the screen lighter. Can you guys see us okay? Great. So as Jennifer said, as Gib said, we're delighted to be here and say hi tonight and do an early welcome to all of you. And we're here really as a conduit for questions as current parents. As Jennifer said, our son Jackson is a junior. He's currently in Prague, having the time of his life, doing study abroad and really enjoying it. He is a political science major with a minor in econ and possibly entrepreneurship. And he has loved Hobart. Relations. Yeah, and yes, international relations and econ and entrepreneurship as minors. And Carol Ann will tell you a little bit what we really love about the school and this Parents Executive Committee as well. Yeah, you guys, welcome. I'm so excited for you. And I'm so excited for you because you have all of this time still ahead of you. It's such a wonderful experience and it's such a wonderful place. And I will just tell you a quick story that, you know, other parents have heard me say, but we've been so impressed by Hobart because we have JP and I have 5 kids between us. And so we've had 4 kids in college at the same time. We had one in another small liberal arts college, one in a large state university, one in an Ivy, and Hobart was the school that we felt 100% gave us the most meaningful opportunities to get involved, the most meaningful avenues for feedback. And it's just been a school unlike any other of the other colleges. And we were very involved with our kids' high schools as well, but we really have found that Hobart is unique in the degree to which it allows parents to have a voice, be listened to, but still not get in the way of your kids. And I'll just give you one small example of that. When Jackson was a freshman, we went to our first PEC meeting, and Jackson loves Hobart. And at the time really had only 2 small complaints, and they were one that something about the laundry machines, and the other that one of the dining halls wasn't open late enough. And lo and behold, we come back, we bring those things up in this meeting, and we come back in the spring, and they've both been addressed. And that just felt like a very nimble kind of response that you wouldn't necessarily see from an institution, but a place like Hobart, you do see that. And then the other big shout out I want to give to Hobart is that, and you guys don't have to think about this yet, but I would suggest that you do regardless, the Career Center is unparalleled. They will help your kids in ways that you will be so impressed by, and in ways, I will be honest with you, that some of our other kids have not had in their schools, in their colleges. So that has also been really encouraging. And the network of alums
has been wonderful. And the freshmen are encouraged to go in and talk to the Career Center, simply because it doesn't then become this scary place that you finally run to in the spring of your junior year or the fall of your senior year. So we really can't say enough about how much we love the school, and we have a lot of experience with colleges. So I hope that gives you some sense of what's so wonderful about it and how very much you have to look forward to. Oh, and homecoming week, that weekend, Parents Weekend, is super fun.
So with that, yeah, we'll turn it back to Jennifer, and we're here for lots of questions and discussion.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm seeing some questions in the chat room, some questions about the admitted student events. And Gib, I don't know if you want to answer those questions.
Yes, I do. We do not have any in-person events in Michigan this year. We do have one in Boston, in Weston, Massachusetts. Actually, I'm pulling up the date right now. I think it's next Sunday. I think it's this coming Sunday, but I'll put that link in the chat right now too.
Yeah, we brightened our screen, so now we can see you.
Of course, that's only really bothering JP. It doesn't really matter to you guys.
Technology is not my strong suit. Luckily, Hobart is very strong in that.
I do want to answer the question about alums in Michigan that you can reach out to. And absolutely, I do work in the Office of Advancement, and I am connected with the Career Service Office and with our alumni and alumni relations. And I can also find parents. So to that family who asked about Michigan, I will follow up with you after this Zoom meeting and putting you in touch with people in Michigan.
I'm from Michigan too. Not that that helps, but.
In DC, there was an event that was it was one of our first events. It was March 4th. But don't despair. There are admitted student days. If you can make it to one of those in April, that would be great. So my question is there anybody here who has any questions for Caroline and JP as parents of a Hobart and William Smith student? Are there any questions you have about the experiences, the classes, the orientation? Everything is on the table. Don't be shy. You can either put your question in the chat or raise your hand, or if nobody's unmuting themselves right now, which is great, but if you want to unmute yourself and just be recognized that way, that's great as well.
And also, I would say, everybody, if you want to, if you'd like to have our emails and write to one of us or write to both of us, we're happy to answer via email as well. And, you guys, Jennifer, you can feel free to share our emails with everyone.
I'll do that. Thanks. Perfect.
Has Jackson used any of the academic services or tutoring? He has had some tutoring, I think, has some help on campus while he's been there. I know that it's very widely available and there's a lot of resources. I think there is a writing center, if I've got that right, Jennifer, I think, and there's a lot of peer-to-peer tutoring available. The other thing I would say about that is that the professors are really accessible.
Yeah, and I would say, yes, in terms of career services, as Caroline mentioned, as a first-year freshman, he was there early on doing a sample resume, which I think is something that
academic services.
Yes, but I just want to mention that service. And then there was
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, JP, go ahead.
No. Caroline already cut me off, so I'm done.
We're getting a lot more questions, so I just want to touch on that academic services. We do have the Center for Teaching and Learning, and there are a lot of parents I know whose students do use those services. There are, those services are not only for students who maybe, if you have a student who has a 504 plan or something like that that needs to be talked about going forward for college classes, the person to talk to within the CTL is Chanel France. She might be doing one of these Zoom meetings also, but she and the whole team at the Center for Teaching and Learning is very helpful. There are a lot of different things that a student can get out of Center for Teaching and Learning, including peer-to-peer tutoring. We often, for some of our first-year classes that maybe are larger classes or difficult classes, there will be a student who works with that faculty member and is available to students who have questions. Having said that, the faculty are always available. I have never heard of a student not being able to go to their faculty and talk to them.
They are actually required to have 6 hours of office hours a week, so they're at least that accessible.
So there's two questions around the social scene and Greek life. Should we do that, Jennifer? Do those?
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'll just start. So Jackson is very involved out of classes broadly because there's so much to do at HWS. So he plays club soccer, and he did go Greek. He did join a fraternity, and it is, I think it's a situation at HWS where you don't need it to have fun, but I do think a good percentage of kids do it. And he's been very happy with it and the friendships that he's made, but he has just as many friends in the Greek system as friends outside of the Greek system. And I do think the social scene is pretty robust at HWS, in a nice blend of there's enough to do in sort of the dorms and the student housing. There's food trucks we noticed when we were there at the last family weekend, which I think the kids loved. And I think the school does a really nice job of sort of gradating the social scene freshman through senior year. Like there's certain things that are more first year targeted, second year targeted, et cetera.
And as you asked a question about housing, and there is a residential requirement at Hobart on campus for the first, I think it's 3 years. I think there are some exceptions made to that, but that's like an application process. So they are eventually, I believe, allowed to live. Jennifer, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they are eventually allowed to live in a Greek house or off campus as seniors. But there are some requirements around living in campus housing in the beginning. And personally, I think that's really great because, you know, they find a community in that, and there's some structure to it as well, particularly in those earlier years.
Yeah, I would
Very-
just add to that there's, I'm sorry, Caroline. I
Oh,
mean,
go
to interrupt. There are requirements, a lot of requirements around living off campus are around your academic eligibility. And we are a residential campus, so our preference is, of course, to have students on campus. We have many different types of housing situations available on campus, including houses that are like a house, like you're living off campus, but you're actually, you know, the house belongs to the campus. So there are plenty of options, and the process is explained fairly well with the with our housing office. But Carolyn is correct in that.
So how can parents live far away? You want to, I think that's maybe more for you, Jennifer. There's lots of ways to get involved with Jennifer's office and to be helpful, even if you're not going to be in Geneva, New York. So I'm sure she can.
Absolutely. So the Parents Executive Committee, which we have talked about, our goal, it is a philanthropic committee, so there is a philanthropic component to the committee, but we also ask for volunteers in all different ways. And as you can see, even just here tonight, there is a request for parents and alums who are familiar with the colleges to talk to people in different regions about admissions questions. So admissions is a great way for parents to get involved, and that is a great way to get involved in your region. Also career services, if you have internships or you know, entry-level jobs available in your area, there is very likely a student that might be willing to move to your area to do that internship or job. So there are a lot of things, actually a lot of our opportunities are not necessarily on campus. The PEC does meet twice a year on campus. Those meetings are not mandatory, but there are lots of ways. So if you are interested in volunteering or get involved, once you're here on campus, you'll be hearing from us more about ways to get involved. Somebody did ask about a car, and Carolyn and JP, I don't know if you want to just answer real quickly. I don't know if Jackson had a car when he was a first year.
Not first year.
Not freshman year,
And
but
not,
sophomore year.
yeah,
Sophomore.
halfway through sophomore year. And I think HWS is pretty accommodating around it, but you need to have a special parking sticker and all that. I mean, I think generally there's enough to do on campus and the town is so close. I would just say that my own view as a parent, because we're not from the administration, is I wouldn't encourage cars for first year students because it kind of keeps them close into the community, and then maybe by second year, sure.
Yeah, and they don't really need, I mean, they can get everywhere. You can get everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. So it's, yeah. But, you know, they like to have cars. So.
There are shuttles that will take you to places on campus that are a little farther away. I believe our shuttle even goes to Wegmans and to shopping malls that are within an hour drive from here. Our student engagement office is really great at offering different opportunities. And the fact of the matter is, kids usually find somebody who has a car that can take them to Wegmans if they don't want to take the short walk off of campus. There are a couple of questions about student advisors and first-year students. Roommates, Gib, do you want to answer that or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. So for first year seminar selection, I think that was one of the questions in there. You will be sent a list of some paperwork for your academic preference. You're going to fill that out. One of those questions is going to be to look through these first year seminars. First year seminars are meant to be fun courses to get you ready for college level reading, college level writing, college level time management skills. I say fun because they really are meant to be fun. Like mine was called Earth versus Humans. It was a geology course. The physics department has one called Playground Physics. There's one on stand-up comedy. So they really are meant to be fun. The professor of that first year seminar is also your academic advisor. So you're automatically seeing your academic advisor at least 3 times a week for class. You're really going to get to know them. They're going to get to know you as a person, as a student. And that's helpful for when things like registering for courses for the next semester comes up. They'll say, you did really well in 100 level intro economics. Why don't you take a 300 level? Maybe you want to major in it. Or they could say, slow down. Why don't you take a 100 level English course? Why don't you take a 100 level writing and rhetoric course? Really solidify those college level reading and writing skills. And then you're going to be more successful for your remaining semesters of college. So that all starts, it's actually coming up soon. That's all starts in April and May, and your students will be getting emails about that shortly. First year seminar selections, you just choose what's interesting to you. Everything else will work itself out.
There's a question in here about our impressions or experiences as parents at HWS versus other colleges of our kids, without naming any names. Thank you for that. We won't do that. From an academic perspective, you know what I would say academically, I feel like, Hobart is right there punching at the weight of all the excellent schools that we are experiencing in terms of the teacher and the professor involvement, the level of engagement, the kinds of courses. We were so incredibly impressed with Jackson's freshman year seminar and the relationship he built as a result of that. Another just like small story and this again kind of goes a little bit to career centers, but a little bit to the overall preparedness of the student body. Our son, who did graduate from an Ivy, was struggling on sort of a pre-law track. And the advice that we ended up giving him and that he ended up following, we learned from a student at Hobart.
Yes.
Because the pre-law situation there was so strong. And our son, who was at this Ivy League, didn't get any of that, right? So he didn't get any of that help. And it was not for lack of trying. So I think that there's a very strong, they're very strong academically generally, but I think also when you sort of pick a lane as a student, they're really good in advising you how to take the courses that are going to help you go forward in that lane.
Yeah, and I will say that, everything Caroline said is right, but I will also say Jackson went to a boarding school that was, rigorous. Is it among the most rigorous? No, but it was rigorous, and he appreciated and valued the prep he had in high school, and he needed it, right? Because I think that, as Gibbs said, the first semester of freshman year, I think they sort of on-ramp you in a nice way, but then it ramps up pretty quickly, and thank goodness they have a nice small teacher to student ratio, or student to teacher ratio, and I think he felt that he could ask any questions, get the support he needed, but I think he feels it's rigorous. So
I think it's pretty balanced, yeah. I think it's pretty balanced is what I would say overall. I think we have another kid in a school that's kind of grindy. And I sometimes wish there was a little bit more of Hobart in her school, because I think that there could be a little more balance. And I think that Hobart does a very good job at that.
Yeah, I agree.
That's great. Thank you. Gib, do you want to answer the next question about the racial and ethnic diversity on campus and the size of the incoming class?
Yep, the incoming class is going to start with number 5. I know that much. So it'll be between like 500 and 530. Maybe we'll see what's going on there. That really just depends on how the next couple of weeks go. And of course, FAFSA delays, which are a hindrance to everybody. Racial and ethnic diversity on campus. We are about 25%, about 25% of our students are students of color. About 10% of our students are international students. 39 states, 41 countries on campus for some geographic diversity there. Do HWS students interact with any other college campuses? Not much. We do have pre-professional programs for law. So if you're interested in studying law, you could spend 3 years at HWS, 3 years at Cornell, have a bachelor's and a JD in 6 years instead of 7. We also do 3 and 2 engineering programs with Columbia and Dartmouth. So that's how we interact academically. Socially, we are within range of other schools. We're an hour from Rochester, Syracuse, Ithaca. In between that, we have St. John Fisher and Cuca colleges. So we're not alone on the college web up here, but we're also not the type of campus where students pack up their bags and go home on the weekend or go far on weekends in general. Most of the time students come to campus, they stay for the full semester.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's kids are not leaving, going home for the weekend, whereas that can happen at some schools. I'm going to take the next couple of questions about transportation to and from the airport, closest airport, ride share board. So I would say the closest airport is probably Rochester, but it is very, Syracuse is, in Rochester is maybe 55 minutes. Syracuse might be an hour and 5 minutes away. So it depends on where you're going to fly to. You could choose either airport. There is we don't have an on-campus service to take students to the airport. We do have Finger Lakes Limo is on our website, on our ride website, and I'll get that link and put it on here for you. It's run by our student engagement office, and they offer rides. I will say there is a ride share board that's actually, I believe it's like a Google document that students can go in. We tried to do it on Facebook, but a lot of young people don't do Facebook anymore. I do see parents on the parent and family Facebook page posting that a child might be driving to Boston or going to the Syracuse airport, and if anybody needs a ride, or does anybody know somebody that we could get a ride with. Also, sometimes I have seen faculty members put something in the faculty and staff listserv saying, I have a student that needs to get to this airport at this time. Is there anybody going there? So there are some different ways to work on those rides. Gib, do you want to answer advice for parents attending admitted student days?
Yes, come prepared. It's going to be a long but fun day. I'll give you a little bit of an overlap on what that day looks like. You come for registration. That starts between 8 and 9. So as long as you're there before 9. After 9 o'clock, you're going to go to listen to a panel with President Gearin. President Gearin gives an excellent speech about the value of Hobart and William Smith education, and also sort of his funny path that led him back to Hobart and William Smith. He was our president in the past. He left and now he came back. So he has sort of a funny story there also. After that, you go to a sample class. Sample class is exactly what it sounds like. We offer like 30 different ones on the mid-student days. So you could try an architecture course, you could try a physics course, you could go to the course called Excitingly Undecided if you don't know what you want to study. That's something that'll be available to you. After that, this is my favorite part of the day. We separate the students and the parents. Students go to a student panel, parents go to a panel for first year support. People on those panels could be the Director of Campus Safety, Chanel France from the CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning, Shelley Basilio from our residential education office. The students, though, are in a room with just students. There's no staff members there, and they're really getting an in-depth, authentic look at what student life is like at HWS. They have the freedom to ask any questions that they want in the session.
I think the next question would be for Carolyn and JP. What resonated with your son that led him to Hobart? Perhaps comment on his decision logic and what he valued when he was entering Hobart.
You want to take that, sweetie?
Yeah, so this is a very personal story that I think embodies Hobart. First of all, we had a tour. It was during the pandemic, and it was an incredibly well-run tour by, I think, a junior at the time. I won't mention his name, but he had read Jackson's file ahead of the tour. He knew a little bit about him. He wound up contacting Jackson after the tour, staying in touch with him, and everything that he heard on the tour, he's continued to love, as post the interview and the tour, into the questions that he gave before he ultimately decided to go to the school. And Jackson wound up EDing Hobart, William Smith, and everything that, again, was shared in the tour, where, the small class sizes, the close relationships with the professors, the broad curriculum you can choose from, the beautiful lake, the things that you can experience, just everything has rung true for him that he heard on that first experience?
I think it's, yes, and I think, JP are and I are unabashedly huge fans of liberal arts education. I came out of, a small liberal arts college myself and really, really believe in that as a way to educate, smart and informed citizens. And I think, while Jackson might not say that, what he would say is that coming out of a small boarding school, and also, even though our kids were raised in Manhattan, they have gone to small schools in New York City, and they really see the value of that closeness and the cohesiveness of a situation like that in terms of the faculty and the students. And so I think that was really something that drew him to Hobart, probably in part because it's familiar, but also because it works.
Yeah.
I think there's
Thank
also
you.
a question about the abroad. Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. If you could go right into that, that would be wonderful.
Jackson's loving it.
Yeah.
What's not to love?
Yes, he is loving it. So HWS, as you saw on the website, is one of the leading, I think, study abroad schools in terms of the opportunities and the way they sort of glide path you into a program. So he had they start early at HWS. I think sort of midway through sophomore year, you start taking meetings and seeing if you're interested. They help prepare your application. It's very high touch. He had a number of programs to choose from. I will just say that of his close friends that we know, some are with him in Prague, one is in London, one is in Portugal.
Yeah.
One might be in Dublin, and they're just everywhere. And he's enjoying the time during the week. He's mixed in with a couple of other schools as well into the program. So it's not just HWS kids, but he's with a good pack of them, but a few other universities as well. And he's getting around a certain amount of weekends and seeing some of his other friends.
In fact, he just saw his sister, our other
Yeah.
child, who's also abroad right now, and she's in Copenhagen with another school, and they were just together in Prague last weekend. So yeah, they're having it's a wonderful program, and HWS does an amazing job of guiding them through it, starting very early on. So if it's something that they're interested in, they will really be helped through that process.
Very smooth.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, HWS is recognized for having a great program. And the reason for that is because we do work with the students before they go away and ask them to really kind of pay attention to certain things in their abroad program and really immerse themselves. And then when they come back, they share their story in whatever way. They might do a cooking class or a dance class, or they might have a photography exhibit. So hopefully Jackson is thinking about what he's going to do when he comes back.
He'll certainly be, I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah.
He'll be doing a dance.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the global education link in here because I do want to also say that there are lots of different programs that can work for students who are athletes as well, and many different options in there for you. One quick question, Gib, I wanted to make. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Jeff, I'm just going to build on that. One of his good friends is a girl. I don't know if I can say her name. She's just a star of the lacrosse team. She's just a great, great young woman. And Catherine is her first name. And she did study abroad in Rome in the fall. And the lacrosse team was incredibly supportive of her. And she is really one of the elite players of the Herons, and still wound up doing study abroad in her junior year.
Yeah, and that is an important point, I think, because at our daughter's school, which is in a different league, I mean, like sports, whatever they call athletic conference. I know that the varsity athletes are often discouraged from going abroad because either they're discouraged from going abroad in their season, and they're discouraged from going abroad in the season before because it's considered training season or whatever, time when the team is bonding. And that just isn't the case at HWS. And I think that's so valuable because, how many of these kids are going to be professional athletes after they graduate? They should have that experience if they want that experience.
Absolutely.
I would also like to build on that. We do send about 70% of our students to study abroad. That's really weird. The national average is 2% of American undergraduates will study abroad. We send about 70% of our students. So that's actually something that we're particularly proud of.
It
Where
is
did you
If
exceptional.
you go abroad with you, that is something that does happen. There's no additional fee to study abroad. And if you don't want to go abroad for full semester, totally fine. Go abroad for a J term or a Maymester. That's 3 weeks in January or 3 weeks in May. You got 1 academic credit out of those programs, and those are faculty led.
Gib, there was a question about class size. Somebody mentioned that there were 4 people in a class. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Yep, average class size is 15. The max is 30. We will never have a class of more than 30 students at HWS. Quite frankly, they're hard to come by already, but you will never have a class of more than 30 students. They could get as low as 4. You're right. We do have classes that are 3 or 4. They're oftentimes like senior seminars or more intensive workshops along those lines, like capstones. But the average class size of Hobart and William Smith is 15 with a 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio. All
Great.
first year seminars are also capped at 15. There's no more than 15 students in first year seminars.
I'm going to answer the question. Well, I'm going to touch on the 3x3 law program with Cornell. Gib, maybe you have something to add to that, but I will say I don't believe that student athletes can participate that 4th year. So when they're on campus for 3 years, they can participate in their sport. But then when they go to Cornell for 3 years, so that 4th year at Hobart and William Smith is actually their 1st year at Cornell. I know a student who is in that program and now he's graduating this year. He will come back to campus to graduate, but he is not participating in athletics in that 4th year. And I was thinking, okay, course of study. I think that maybe that next question, maybe that's something, Gib, you can touch on, flexibility about course of study if we don't offer a specific major.
Absolutely. For course of study for a specific major, first off, you don't have to declare your major until the end of 2nd semester sophomore year. End of 2nd semester sophomore year. So you have 2 years to go through our, what is it, like 45 majors, 68 minors, whatever it is. Try what you love, try new things, find what's right for you. There's really no rush in that regard. For students about creating something specific or something close to it, we do offer something called an individual major or an independent major. That is when you have something that HWS, or you have an idea that HWS does not offer in terms of a major, and you want to major in that. For example, we just had robotics. We just had a couple of years ago, we had a neuroscience individual major. You take the courses that we offer in our course catalog. You put together a proposal. You explain how all these courses sort of combine to create a real qualified major at Hobart and William Smith. So the average amount of courses to complete a major is 10 to 12 courses to complete a major, 6 to 8 to complete a minor. So you find those 10 to 12 courses. It is a proposal. You have to actually propose to a committee who will send it back to you and probably say, you know, make some edits here, maybe change this, try that. Oftentimes those individual majors do get approved. Really, really strongly encouraged to start that process your 1st year or your sophomore year if you want to do the individual major, just because that is a little bit more work. Study abroad courses can completely count towards that as well.
One of the questions was support and opportunity for students who are pre-med. Jackson's not pre-med, is he?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. I didn't think so, but I just wanted to confirm that. So we actually do have a support person in our career service office. His name is Scott McPhail, and he works specifically with students who are applying to medical school. And there are a lot of opportunities. Our faculty work with students who are interested in pre-med. There's, of course, the whole the course load that you can take in our sciences. We do offer an opportunity on campus. It's a extracurricular opportunity for students who want to be EMTs, which is kind of a really nice opportunity for students who are interested in that kind of work. So it's a great program, and we absolutely do have students, and we work with students who are interested in that. I think we've done a pretty good job of covering the questions, but if we missed anything, somebody can just speak up right now if you'd like to. I know we're pretty far over our 20-minute allotted time.
Please do.
Yeah, but, you know, we're flexible, so we don't want to discourage anybody. We know this is important.
I was just wondering how many students kind of select their own roommate, or if that's a thing. I think that's a thing at a lot of schools now where they're connecting via Instagram pages and social media and sort of making a connection and saying, do you want to live together, versus how many students just go through the matching process that HWS offers.
Jackson did that. Jackson was able to request a roommate and live with people that he knew. I don't know,
Yeah.
Jennifer, and there's that flexibility to do it either way, right? I know our other kids did not have that option.
He did a mix and match. He wound up requesting one roommate in a quad that he knew and left the other two wide open. And those four are still thick as thieves.
Yeah, I would say they absolutely can choose their own roommate, and Gib might be able to say the percentage of students that do that versus who don't, but I will say that when a student, so if your child chooses somebody to be their roommate, that student also needs to choose him, so it has to be reciprocal, obviously. Gib, do you have a little more information about that?
I don't have a stat on that. I don't have a specific percentage on that, but it is something that we do offer.
And do they have to be in the same first year seminar, because are they living with their first year seminar?
So that depends. That could be dependent on the student and what exact first year seminar you're taking.
So some first year seminars live together and some don't?
Yep, some first year seminars live in something called a living learning community. That is when the professor, so all of our first year dorms that are in living learning communities, they have 30 students on each first year dorm floor. There's a common room and then there's also a classroom. So the professor comes to your first year dorm floor and teaches the class there. So if you're in a living learning community, you're automatically taking a very important class with 15 students that you're going to live with on your first year dorm floor. It's a class you're going to talk about for all 4 years of college. And you know, if you have an 8:30 in the morning FSEM and that FSEM is taught where you live, you could roll out of bed at 8:29 and be there just on time. I did it plenty of times and never failed me.
I think there was a request in there, Jennifer, for someone to put the link for the pre-meds stuff.
Yep, I
There-
just put that in there, health professions FAQ page, and if there's any more questions, if that doesn't help answer your questions, just let me know. We could certainly put you or your student in touch with Scott McPhail or the any of the faculty in the sciences.
And then there's something else there about timeline for payments and deposit and stuff, which maybe you guys could address.
Yeah, so I should know because I put this in newsletters all the time. I believe that the first payment is due by August 1st. However, if you want to do a payment plan and you didn't set it up right by August 1st, you still have time to set up the payment plan. So instead of having 5 months to pay, you might have 4 months to pay. So we have an office that it's our student accounts office. They are a wonderful group of people that that work on all of this. They are very communicative and send things out. I will say this does bring up a really good point, and that is that everything goes to your student. So this is where I hope to help you figure out how to find out that information, because I am the parent of one son who's a senior in college and 2 that have recently graduated. And I get it, it's hard. Not everybody's kids are in charge of that information. So at Hobart and William Smith, our registrar's office developed a program called Share My Info. And this is an opportunity for parents to have access to things. Well, I'm sorry, I'm actually talking about something different. So Share My Info is parents have access to a student's schedule and grades and all of that. And if that's something that you want to do, I will be sharing that information over the summer. I would recommend having your student sign you up for that before they actually start school. But that's just me personally projecting. My own kid, once he started taking his classes, probably wouldn't want to share information with me once it had started. So that's
not share his info with us, but he
did
shares
not.
he didn't click the box because he wanted that option. But I will say, to his credit, he has shared it every semester.
Yes, and we have, and you know, it just varies by kid, because we have a daughter at another school and she did share it. And so I
Yeah.
see, I'll call her and say, how is English? So that's a good reason not to have share your info. because it's-
Exactly. That's very true. And then separate from that, and I'm sorry I started talking about that. I got a little confused there for a moment, but there is a separate way to sign up to be an authorized user on your son or daughter's, your child's payment plan. So and that's a fairly easy process that we will make sure you know about as well.
The first thing before any of that, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong and how I'm saying this, or maybe if I'm phrasing it incorrectly. Before any of that, the first thing you have to do is reply to your offer of admission. That's my admissions plug right there. And that is a
Yes.
$500 deposit. That is all due May 1st. That is National College Decision Day, May 1.
Yep, any communications from the colleges really won't happen until after that day. So that's when the students will start to get their information about their class, signing up for classes and orientation, and the Spark program, which is new to the colleges as of last year, was our first year to do that. So all of this kind of stuff will start happening at that point. Somebody did ask about putting a link to the HWS recorded videos. Gib, if you want to put that in the chat. And let's see, will the parents get an email about all the critical dates, costs, et cetera? Yes, we will be sharing that information with you for sure. I send out emails and newsletters that will have that information. I'm kind of the conduit between parents and the colleges. I work very closely with our campus partners to make sure that parents know what's happening when there are deadlines and that sort of thing. It's not perfect. Our website is great. If you have any questions, you can go there, go to the search tool and look up anything you need. Caroline and JP, what are your thoughts on getting that kind of information as parents at Hobart and William Smith?
Well, I mean, Jennifer, you're amazing. I mean, again, just to point out the difference of HWS, like it's been incredible the degree to which we know things, not because of Jackson, but because of Jennifer, because of her newsletters. It's like having like boots on the ground, you know, up there in Geneva. So it's amazing. And then I would also say, like, you know, though Facebook can be a little bit of a rabbit hole, there's so much to be learned from other parents. So, you know, join that Facebook group, because especially around the spring is when all the new parents start to ask questions about, what does this such and such dorm look like? What is this? What about the food plan? I mean, you can't believe what you can learn. You know, you just have to temper it a little bit, but
it's an amazingly rich community, right? They send the This Week in Photos TWIP. You know, we've gotten to know so many parents and their children, not being up there a ton, but being up there, you know, steadily. And I don't know, I just think the school does an incredible job of letting the kids have the space to grow and develop over the years, but keeping parents really connected.
Thank you. There is a question about the FAFSA, Gib. I'm going to let you take care of that one.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's probably the question of the year for us in admissions, honestly. I am pulling up the playlist to give you all connections to the other virtual info sessions that we have also. When will FAFSA be released? Excellent question. We're not sure. We're supposed to start getting them in batches already. We just learned today that some colleges start to receive them in batches. To make up for this, one of the things that we've done is by guaranteeing you your financial aid package based off of our net price calculator. So all students, many parents should have gotten emails about our net price calculator. What you're going to do is you're going to submit the same information that you would for the FAFSA into that net price calculator. That will give you your need-based aid award, and we will give you the higher of the two awards. So if your net price calculator is higher than your FAFSA award, we're going to give you the net price calculator. That's sort of just how we're adjusting to this very, very strange year for financial aid that this class did particularly get gypped with. But this net price calculator, we're confident it has worked. It's been working. So definitely feel free to use that as well. And I'll also throw that link in there too.
There was a question about whether or not we answered the question about
Student athletes.
but I'm what the question was.
There was the 3x3 law program at Cornell, and yes, athletes can participate for the 3 years on campus, but not when that 4th year, which is their first year on Cornell's campus, that doesn't work. So they can participate in their athletic team for 3 years. I did put the Facebook parents link at the beginning of right at the very beginning of the chat. But I will try to grab that again. And again, my email address is super simple. It's just Murray, MURRAY @hws.edu. If there's anything that we talked about tonight that you would like to ask any other questions, or if you need a little more information, and if you didn't catch Caroline and John's email addresses, which I also posted in here, I'm happy to forward you to them so that they can answer questions.
Yeah. And I just have to put like one more plug in and just say, like, you know, of all the colleges that we've had our kids at, like none of them have had a Jennifer.
Right.
So, it's unbelievable to us. It's crazy. We can't believe, you know, how much easier it kind of makes life.
It really is. It's so by touch.
Yeah.
None of the colleges my kids have gone to have had a Jennifer either. I wish they had, but it is absolutely my pleasure. I tell my children they give me some street cred to do this job, but really my job is very easy because we have a wonderful group of campus partners all across campus in all different areas in curricular, extracurricular, athletic, everything. So I'm very lucky to make those connections for parents to the right people on campus. So if there aren't any more, we'll stay here until all the questions are answered, but I know it's late and people need to go. Is there any other questions that anybody would like to ask while we're just letting it kind of wind down here?
Like Jennifer, my job is also fun too. All I do all day is talk about college, and I can talk about college.
Well, I want to say thank you very much to Carol Ann and John for spending your evening with us doing this and hosting another group of potential 2028 members for Hobart and William Smith on Thursday. You two are amazing. You are great representatives of the colleges, and I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure for
Good
sure.
luck, everybody.